I want to look at the top 5 code switchers of all time in Australia.
Okay.
Who do I start us off with? Top 5 code switchers of all time. Number 5, Jarryd Hayne. Jarryd Hayne going from the Parramatta Eels, pretty much in the prime of his career as a player, hadn't won a premiership, goes over to the San Francisco 49ers, untested, didn't play a snap of football, and to get preseason games and was playing well. It's one thing to do it, as a defensive player or as a punter like some AFL, to do it as a running back or a special teams runner. Unbelievable. He doesn't get enough credit for it.
I know people say, it was only the preseason that he played well and he basically didn't last a year there. But playing a single snap of an NFL game is an achievement in itself. And to be the first rugby league player to go over there and do it, you're easily one of the top 5 code switchers. But bringing me to number 4, the most iconic Australian athlete, Anthony Mundine. Goes from the Dragons to boxing, one of the greatest rugby league players at the time, goes over to boxing, trailblazes it, and he's one of the greatest Australian boxers of all time. No one in Australia really thinks of boxing. They always think of Anthony Mundine. So he's easily number 4.
Yeah, a bit past his prime. Now, apparently he's looking for another fight, whether it be maybe a Manny or... I'll put my hand up, Chock.
Would you fight him?
I'll put my hand up, Chock, get an exhibition, put it on a no-limit card. I don't know, but he is one of the GOATs. You can't deny that. To do it, to be one of the best rugby league players of all time, then to go over and boxing and dominate, you got to respect him there. Number 3, I'm going with Israel Folau. Now, this list could be about something else. Could be pretty much, we've just named 3 controversial players. But Israel Folau, from going to rugby league again, at the height of his rugby league career, going over to rugby union and being pretty much the best Wallaby.
Don't forget about his AFL stint either.
He also had a bit of a stint in AFL too. The guy's a freak athlete, but pretty much was the go-to guy, the face of Australian rugby union. I would say probably the best rugby union player in the last decade for them, and they always have to lean on rugby league players. But again, didn't end too well with Australian rugby, but you can't deny he's been one of the best code switchers of all time.
He won 3 John Eales medals, and that's the Wallabies' best player for that year. And at the time, that was a record, first player to ever reach 3. So if you're going to go based off that, best Wallabies player from that decade, and easily one of the best code switchers. He's a freak athlete, and everyone always still, when they jump up for a massive kick, you're quoting Folau like you're quoting Kobe.
Good debater as well, winning that that court case.
But that brings us to number 2, the OG Bulldogs, Sonny Bill Williams. Went over from the Bulldogs over to French rugby, and then made his way to play for the All Blacks. And at the time, All Blacks is probably probably the greatest rugby union team of all time. To be able to play in that All Blacks team, win 2 World Cups. You're a freak athlete, then comes back to rugby league, wins a comp with the Roosters.
Stint in boxing as well. He's had a few code switches too.
He's an ultimate athlete, one of the greatest Australian code switchers of all time.
It's good sort too.
Mate, he could jump into modelling too if that counts as a code switch. Number 1, and this might be a bit controversial to some because it's fairly new, but number 1 is Jordan Mailata.
Yeah.
Going from under-20s rugby league at South Sydney, playing junior rugby league his whole career, then switching up again, same as Jarryd Hayne, not playing a snap of football, getting drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Featuring in a Super Bowl, being one of the best tight ends. I think he's an all-pro tight end.
Yeah, he's made the Pro Bowl, made all-pro, and that's like stuff that you have to be seasoned in the game to be making that. That's the elite of the NFL. Plays the left tackle, one of the hardest positions to play in the NFL. And the fact that he's got a Super Bowl appearance now, multiple playoff appearances, easily one of the greatest.
He's revolutionised how NFL will draft players going forward. They're going to be looking overseas at more Polynesian players playing rugby union, just because how agile he is, how good on his feet he is. He's one of the freakish athletes where, a Bankstown Bulls junior, he takes number 1, especially in terms of financial gain. From going over, barely being paid $5,000 a year at South Sydney to getting $74 million guaranteed at Philly.
Playing a Super Bowl.
Playing in a Super Bowl, it's second to none. That's why Jordan Mailata is number 1.
And if you look at the other rugby union players, yes, they have done well, but the degree of difficulty to go to America and play well in the NFL, it's much harder, so he earns number 1.
To give you some context on that as well, so Mailata, Jarryd Hayne, giving them a bit more credit, over 200,000 people apply for the NFL draft a year. And you've got these 2 guys that have never played before in their life.
Yeah, you're exactly
going
right.
over and playing in the NFL.
200,000 players that have gone through the college system,
Grown up
playing
with
in
it,
high school, growing up playing the game, and these guys go over there, and that just talks their
and they dominate the game.
They're freaks. Honourable mention that we want to mention: Daniel Vito going over to WWE from rugby league.
Lottie Takuri.
Lottie Takuri, Wendell Saylor again doing his thing in rugby. I think rugby unions have a thing for rugby league wingers.
What was the guy with the headgear? Barnes, Berrick Barnes.
Matty Rogers too did his thing over there. I just think, yeah, well, best of luck to rugby union. But Jesus Christ, have a look at your juniors. Maybe do something about that.
Honourable mention to Benji Marshall as well, one of the failed code switches.
Played at Auckland Blues, didn't he?
Yeah, I think is it Auckland Blues?
Yeah, it wasn't up to scratch. I don't think. Did he play for the All Blacks? No. Didn't
No.
get a start.